Hello. Hello. So, the reason I'm doing these videos is because I want to learn more, and the way that I plan to go about doing that is talking about the things that I've learned. I also am doing this because a lot of what I do is very different from project to project. It's never the same, and there's always a desire to want to convince people that yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this, although I've never done it before. I don't have to go around convincing people. I just continue to share my expertise and allow that to speak for itself. And I also just want to give back, cultivate a community of learning and striving for something bigger than ourselves. Striving for achieving something, not necessarily winning. So yeah, that's what I am doing this for. An app I use called Readwise. It basically collects all of my highlights from my Kindle when I read. And it's a method that I use from a book called Smart Notes. It's called the Zettelkasten method. I read, I highlight something, then I say, hey Frank, why'd you highlight this thing? I write it in my own words. I elaborate on it. And then when I go to Readwise, I basically am given spaced repetition of these highlights. So now I basically get to see highlights that I read a long time ago. And then I get to take that highlight and the note that I put on it and I elaborate on it. I usually take it and write something about it and just type something up to connect that idea with other ideas I have or other ideas from other books. My idea with these videos was just to basically do the writing, but in a video. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing it. I already recorded a video, and this is me re-recording it because the first video, I looked at a highlight and started talking about it, and I continued to call a marketing segment called the early majority and the late majority. I continued to call them the early adopters and the late adopters, when really the early adopters are the all right, sucker. You better work. I told him. Early adopters. I continued to call a marketing segment, the early adopters, when really I was talking about the early majority. Visionaries and the early adopters, the early adopters, is the early adopters, or the late adopters. And the early adopters are the visionaries. And that wasn't the only thing I got wrong. In the highlight, I was saying one thing about a term, the whitewater rafting. It's whitewater rafting strategy, which is being able to adjust quickly. So, prime example, I'm recording a video talking about something and using the wrong term to recognize it, look into it, and now fix it. So, if I didn't record these videos, bada bing, bada boom, this is learning. I didn't plan this. Maybe I did subconsciously. Nobody will ever know. Only me and God. No, only God knows, because I don't even know. Long story short, I wanted to go over it correctly. When faced with such nasty decisions, it is usually best to make them quickly, get into the new flow, and plan to course correct going forward. This is a whitewater rafting strategy where hesitating on a split decision is the one behavior guaranteed to capsize the boat. When you do pick, go hard in that direction chosen, regardless of doubts. That's from a book called Crossing the Chasm. It discusses diffusion of innovation, where read a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. He discusses that topic and got me to look into it a little bit more. Found this book. It discusses how innovation is diffused through the public and accepted by the public. So there is a chasm between the visionaries and the early majority, because the visionaries are investors. They're people that take technology or whatever's being diffused through the public from the hell is their name? The enthusiasts. Gets hot in here. What you gonna do? They're called the innovators. So the innovators take pride in being the first ones. The product isn't ready to go. It's still got bugs, blah, blah, blah. And they still take it on because they love that new thing, being the first one with it, where the visionaries take their word for whatever it is that's being diffused, and they take that product and they want to push it to later marketing segments, which are the early majority, late majority, and the laggards. Problem is that the early majority needs social proof because they aren't willing to take the risks that the visionaries take. They need something to be more proven. So how do you give the early majority the social proof when they are the social proof? What the author Geoffrey Moore, what he does is he makes an analogy to D-Day, where you choose a beachhead, which is a niche group in the early majority, and you serve them in every way to make them not ignore you. So now you take this and you have won over a niche group in the early majority, and this whitewater rafting that he discusses in the highlight is basically attacking that niche group. Do not question it, no doubts. You attack that, win them over. The goal is not to pick the optimal beachhead to be successful. What you must do is win the beachhead you have picked. Instead of picking a niche area to serve, and then, somewhere else, you thin yourself out. You have to win that group and then build parallel, what he calls whole products. Work with other companies, other businesses that builds off of what you provide, but creates a more whole product for the early majority and the late majority, because those two marketing segments invest when it's a whole product. It's not just one little thing that is disconnected from everything else. It's a product amongst a whole of an environment, like iPhone in the App Store, iTunes, blah, blah, blah. It's an environment. It's a whole product. Whitewater rafting is winning over that group that you choose, not adjusting. So yeah, that's my adjustment to my last attempt. But that's why I'm doing this, and I think that's beautiful. And I want to be more vulnerable and more open to failure. That's where I learn the most. And it's unfortunate that us as a culture sees failure as something to hide, when I want to be able to kind of share that with people and tell people, hey, it's okay. In order for us to be more willing to fail in order to learn. So here I am failing, here I am learning, here I am adjusting, and here I am winning. You should win too. Go out there and fail. Fail quick, learn from it, and win with me. Let's do this thing. Till next time.